This is the concept of getting up at Chatzot. Because through sleep, what is the purpose of sleep? To rest your mind. What happens when we get very stressed? You take a nap, and then you wake up, you feel better. Why? Because you rested your moach, you rested your mind. But spiritually, what happens at night when you go to sleep? Your mochin goes into a place that's called mochin is your consciousness. Your consciousness goes into sleep, and it gets restored. Like, you know how the athletes, they go into a hyperbaric chamber, whatever that is. Okay? So your mind also goes into a hyperbaric chamber. I think it's with like the freezing cold or whatever. They go into the room. It's like a banya, but it's like freezing, and it's I don't know, but it's not important. So anyway, so your mind also goes into a place that it gets restored because your mind is your neshama. Where is that place? It's called spiritually Emunah. Rabbi Nachman explains that Emunah is not just some vague spiritual reality. It's actually like a womb. What happens in a womb? Anybody know? What happens in a womb?
Baby grows.
A baby grows. What's the baby? It's a neshama. So Rabbi Nachman teaches when you go to sleep, your mind, your baby enters the womb that's called Emunah. And what happens in this place that's called Emunah? It sleeps. So it's there to rejuvenate itself. But then you need to make sure that you're vigilant, that you wake up at Chatzot. Why? Because nighttime is the concept of darkness. And what is the concept of darkness according to Kabbalah and Chassidut? Nighttime darkness represents the concealment of God in your life, the concealment of good in your life. This is all called nighttime. Kalula mishnei chalakim. And the encompassment of all of the different hours of the night and of sleep, Shem Chatzot Laila, Harishon v'Chatzot Laila Sheni Kemuva. We know that there's two portions to the nighttime. There's the first part of the night, and there's the second part of the night, like it's brought in the Zohar, and that's the reason why we say in Tikkun Chatzot, we start by saying Tikkun Rachel, and then we say Tikkun Leah. What's the difference between these two? Tikkun Rachel is really the intense mourning over the loss of the Beit HaMikdash. Tikkun Leah is the consolation of our yearning for its returning. So Rabbi Nachman's teaching and Rav Natan's teaching that these are corresponding to the two parts of nighttime, meaning the two parts of the time that Hashem is hiding from you. How do you deal with the first part? By mourning over the fact that you don't see Hashem in your life. How do you deal with the second part? By yearning and hoping for when He's going to come back. But in order to be able to do Tikkun Chatzot, meaning the way for you to take yourself out of darkness, out of the concealment of godliness, is by doing Tikkun Chatzot, meaning getting up at Chatzot. Shem Cheneged Shnei Kushot, because they are the concept of the two types of questions. We learned that there's two types of questions that we deal with in our life. There are questions that we don't have answers to, but there are answers. And with the right zchut, with the right merit and the right circumstances, Hashem will give you the answer. But then there are questions that there literally are not answers to presently. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the first type of question, you need to try as hard as you can to find those answers. But the second type of question that there are not answers presently to, there it's a shiur for you to look into those questions, because he compares it to a prostitute in which you don't come back from. Meaning, why is it that the majority of the Jewish secular world is secular? What happened that 200 years ago, the majority of the Jewish world was set up to be placed into exile? That only a very... Yeah, the Enlightenment.
Prior to that, everybody was religious?
Everybody wasn't religious, but it was a much different situation. Now is mamish exile. The majority of Jewish people don't know what Shabbat is. They don't know what tefillin is. How did that happen? Anybody know? The Enlightenment Movement. What happened in the Enlightenment Movement? They were taught that there are very, very, very deep wisdoms that we can all elevate ourselves to if we ask the right types of questions and we investigate. And that's the greatest thing that you could possibly do. Rabbi Nachman says this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And this is going to be the cause of the final exile before Mashiach comes. Why is that? Because these are the questions that don't have answers presently. And for those questions, that's the prostitute you don't come back from. And that's the reason why still 200 years later, their families still don't know Hashem.
There's no family with the father, not even.
I'm saying,
They don't even identify as Jewish anymore.
I know. And it all started with what? Haskalah, the Enlightenment Movement. And it's not like Jewish people aren't intelligent. It's not like we are not yearning for higher education. We're the first ones to do that. But the higher education that the Jewish people have been accustomed to is that of godliness, the higher education of spirituality. However, when the Jewish people were tricked into thinking that in the physical world there's a higher education which could end up being the greatest thing if they investigate and look into it and spend their life paying for their children to be able to be a part of, and then going to years and years and years of school and going into hundreds and thousands of dollars of debt in order that you should get a degree in something which you won't go to work for your whole life. So that's the cause of exile. And we're all dealing with the ramifications of it. Okay? So the Haskalah movement, Rabbi Nachman says, is a very, very deep judgment. And that judgment is going to spell the final exile before Mashiach comes. And we're dealing with it right now. These are the two types of questions. And that's why Chatzot has two parts of it. It's to answer those two types of questions. Yarishon az ahoshech v'adin gadol bayoter. The first part of the darkness, the din is greater. In the first part of darkness, the judgment's always greater, right? That's when the darkness is actually physically the strongest. And it's also the time when spiritually there's the most judgments. And that's the reason why we start with Tikkun Rachel. Because the only way to deal with those judgments is through complete emunah. Not through trying to understand what's happening to you, but to simply rely on the fact that it's from Hashem. This is the type of questions that there are not answers presently to. And they are coming from the strength of the nighttime, meaning the strength of the concealment of godliness in the world. Because it's impossible to answer. Because through thus, then you need sleep. That is the departure of da'at from the world. Because then you need l'salek dato legamre v'lismoch rach al yedei emunah. Because then you need to remove your da'at completely, and you need to rely only on emunah. Zeh bechinat sheina. This is the concept of sleep. Aval b'chatzot laila. However, at chatzot laila, aznim takadin. Chatzot laila is the time of sweetening the judgments. That's when you get up from your sleep, in the middle of the sleep. So when you get up in the middle of the sleep, how do you do that? You do that then by removing your consciousness completely. You're trying to understand why I'm having the difficulties in my life. Many of us are constantly besieged by challenges in our life, whether they are family problems, financial problems, health problems. The list goes on and on and on and on. However, we have a difficulty. What's the difficulty? That Hashem, there are times that He wants us to simply relinquish our understanding of what's happening and trust Him. That's called the releasing of our da'at. That's called the releasing of our mind from what's happening. And Rabbi Nachman says this is the only way to answer those questions that are hardest. It's through complete, simple amuna pashuta. They asked the Baal Shem Tov, what is your chiddush to the world? Why are you bringing a new Torah? We don't need a new Torah. We've had a Torah for 2,000 years. We don't need to bring a new one to us now. What is it that's so great about what you're doing? He said, I have not brought anything new. And then he went back and he said, well, maybe one thing. The one new thing which I am bringing to the world is called Emuna Pashuta, simple faith. What does simple faith mean? It means I believe simply that every single thing that takes place in my life is from Hashem. Everything that Hashem does is for my very best, and everything is only in order to bring me closer to
How
Him.
did they not have that earlier? How was that a chiddush?
Because the emunah that people had is that I believe in God, but then there's whatever's happening in the world.
Oh, I see.
And we still have that now.
Yeah, a lot of people have that now.
Everybody has that now.
Even people that claim that they have the moon, they also have that now because it's not
100%.
100%. They're not
That's
100%
right.
there yet.
Right. So what is Amuna Pashuta?
Because if they had a moon true, they wouldn't get angry.
Right.
They would do things.
Right.
That's a big deal. 100%.
Okay. So this is the chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov. Amuna Pashuta. That he says that the highest maila of a Jew is not learning. It is simple Amuna. That when a person has complete Amun in all areas of his life, that everything is from Hashem, everything is for the best, this is actually the highest thing that a Jew can attain in his life.
How did you argue that?
There's nothing to argue.
No, but how does he argue that it's that and not let's just say Torah or not?
He's not arguing it. He knows. No. So mitzvot and Torah, he says, are essential. But what's the goal of the learning of the Torah? To get to Amunah Pashuta. Why am I learning? So that I can feel close to Hashem. By being close to Hashem, I'm knowing Hashem. How do I know Hashem? By believing in Hashem. Right? You can't know something that doesn't physically exist. You can only believe in that. How do you believe in that? By knowing the Torah as much as you can, and to the degree that you are connected to the truth, to that degree you can believe in the truth. But the goal of the learning of the Torah is not that I'm just learning Torah. He was very against the fact that people in yeshivas are busy day and night discussing, let's say, questions in the Gemara that have no practical ramifications. The Baal Shem Tov said this was never what the Torah was designed for. The Torah is our greatest means to attain Emunah Pashuta. And he says it's a very, very big Yetzer Hara that gets the Jewish people to think that the greatest thing in the world is that we are going over that this Manda Omer says this and this Manda Omer says this, and I'm busy learning this for 8 hours, and then I go home and I yell at my wife, and I don't treat my kids well, and I'm a wreck when I'm at work because I'm worried about how I'm gonna pay my bills. This was never the goal, says the Baal Shem Tov, of the revelation of the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to us. The Torah was always meant to be the key and the means towards Emunah. Okay? And then you need to establish and to be busy by learning Torah when? At Chatzot. And through this, then I draw down da'at and I open up the gates and the pathways of consciousness in order in order to acquire and to merit complete da'at, meaning to know that everything is from Hashem, the Yeshev, and then to answer, and to understand the teirutz al ela kushot, on the difficult questions, shev shalashvan. Meaning that the only way to be able to answer those difficult questions is to actually, when the judgments are starting to nullify, and that is at Chatzot. So he says like this. There's pretty much 3 steps here. There's 3 steps to the night. There's the first stage of the night, there's the second stage of the night, and there's the third stage of the night. Rabbi Nachman says the key to you being able to experiencing good in your life is to know how to go to sleep. How is that? By sleeping in the beginning of the night and waking up in the second part of the night. What do? We're up. We sleep in the third part of the night, and we're up the most intensely in the first part of the night. Why is that an issue? Because the nighttime represents exile. What does it mean that I'm up the most at the beginning of the night? It means that I am allocating all of my energy and my resources and my life force for the greatest part of the exile of my life. How many people, they get up at 12 o'clock and they come into shul, they miss the beginning of the morning, and then at nighttime they're up watching YouTube videos for 7 hours. And then they have a hard time getting up again in the morning. Why is that? Because they are allocating their energy into exile, into galut. Rabbi Nachman says the best thing that you could possibly do is go to sleep in the first part of the night, wake up at Chatzot. Why? Because the first part of the night represents complete concealment of godliness in your life. So if you're staying up for the time when Hashem is the most removed from you, you are not allocating your energy and your resources properly. You are misallocating your resources and your energy. What is the best way to go? To understand that the time to sleep is davka in the beginning of the night, because that is when the exile is the strongest. Then you get up early, and by getting up early, what ends up happening? You wake up right when the judgments start to sweeten. Now is the time to get up, because when you get up now and you learn Torah now, or you do Hippodah now and you pray now, then you actually are starting to begin to rectify the whole cause of your suffering. Because your suffering is coming from the fact that you are invested in the concealment of Hashem in your own personal life. And you do that, and you see that clearly by what are you doing at nighttime? What do you do at night? How many people are busy all day just trying to get through the day so that at nighttime they can go get their ice cream, go watch Netflix for 3 hours, go watch YouTube videos about nothing. And that's their happiness. I need this time for myself. I need to just relax. I need to chill. I just need to take it easy. I had a hard day. Why is that? Because you're in exile. And what are you doing now? You're not taking your koach and your life force when it should be during the daytime, and you're using it at nighttime when Hashem is hidden from you. And then what happens? The next day is exactly the same.
What did you do before television?
They went to sleep in the beginning of the night.
Like it was in the 50s, 40s,
Yeah. They went to sleep at 5 or 6. They woke up at 11 or 12 and they started working.
12 at night?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Whenever the daytime came in.
I'm talking about, right, but I'm talking about like America.
I'm saying if the sun starts to rise at 4 a.m., so they're getting up for when the sun starts to rise because that's the only time to do things. How are you going to do things when you can't see?
How? You can't see.
Yeah, when you can't see, how are you going to do things?
Right.
What is the main focus of the majority of the world? To be able to support myself financially.
Right.
So when's the best time for me to do that? When I can see what's going on. Okay. However, the world has gotten to a point that we have created not only a power of imagination within our media, we've created the power of imagination in life, that we made nighttime look like daytime. That nighttime looks like where it's at. Daytime looks like it's the pits. And what am I going to do now? I'm going to stay up at night. I'm going to put all my lights on. I'm going to put all my technology on. I'm going to put all of these things on to make me think this is really daytime. And what ends up happening? That's the time I really should be sleeping because I can't see now. So you're not going to get answers then. There's no answers that are going to come at that time. You notice that you never actually got answers from those YouTube videos? Did you ever notice that the next day you never actually felt better from doing that? Do you know why? Because you're up when it's sleeping time. The only rectification is to go to sleep. Now is the time to sleep. And then you get up at Chatzot and you start to learn and you start to pray. And by doing that, you rectify your lack of seeing Hashem in your life. Like David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Chatzot laila akum, I'm going to get up, leodot lach. I'm going to recognize that you're in my life. I'm going to appreciate that you're what you're doing for me. Al mishpatei tzidkecha, on the laws of your truth. Al mishpatei tzidkecha, and he says specifically al mishpatei tzidkecha. Specifically on that thing, which is called daika, kikimat atzot lasok b'Torah, meaning your Torah. What am I going to do at Chatzot? What did David HaMelech say? I'm going to recognize you, lahodot. It comes from the word hodah or modeh. I'm recognizing your existence. Where do you recognize Hashem's existence? How do you show Hashem that you recognize existence? When you learn His Torah. When's the time to do that? By Chatzot. What am I doing by getting up at Chatzot? When the whole world has been up now for hours and I've been sleeping and now I get up early, what am I doing? I have rejected the false reality that the world has taught me. That the most important thing in life is money, that the most important thing in life is honor, that the most important thing in life is wealth, the most important thing in life is that the people around me do what I want them to do, the most important thing in life is that things go the way that I want them to. And these are all powers of imagination. And they're all avodah zarah. How do I reject this notion? That when everybody is up, when it's nighttime, meaning when Hashem is missing, I'm going to go to sleep because I don't want to be around for that. And I'm going to get up early, meaning I'm going to get up when the beginning of Hashem in my life could happen. And I'm going to take advantage of that time.
It's also in the sense like people, they're working a whole day. They're literally working a whole day. So now you're going to explain this because the guys who work a whole day, and whatever, all the nuances, and the kids finally go to sleep, and it's finally 10 o'clock, and you're just like, I'm just relaxed.
Exhausted. I'm with you. So I want to tell you, I was in Uman last year. There was a guy there. He works. Most people work. So full time, I mean, most people work full time. And I saw he was up very late. He was up with me and I was staying up late. And then I noticed when I got up, he was also up. And he came, and he came over to me and he started talking to me like very alert. And I said to him, like, did you sleep last night? He said, yeah. I said, how much did you sleep? He said, I only sleep 4 hours a night. I said, how do you only sleep 4 hours a night? He said, well, I work during the day. I have to support my family. And then I learn Torah and I do Ibodadut. And I'm trying to help other people get close to Hashem. So there's not so much time for all of that. So I take advantage of all the time. And then before I go to sleep, I say, Hashem, I literally did everything I could for you today. Now I need you on 4 hours of sleep to give me energy for my next day. The most successful people in the world are not sleeping a lot. So how are they not sleeping? Aren't they exhausted? But they're happy and they're excited. So fatigue is not coming from the lack of sleep. It's coming from the feeling that you're a loser. It's coming from feeling that you are not accomplishing in your life. So whatever it is, I'm giving you multiple things. I'm included. We're all included in this. Where does lack of energy come from? It doesn't come from the events in our life. It's coming from the fact that we do not feel that we are, we feel incomplete. And but where is the feeling of beat coming from? You're blaming everybody else for all your problems. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people. You think that everyone else is the cause of the problems in your life, and you're the cause of the problems in your life. Why? Because you're staying up all night watching videos, and you're not getting up early and starting your day, so you feel bad about yourself. People who are happy get up early. People who are unhappy get up later. It's that simple. It's not a matter of how you grew up. It's not a matter of your culture. It's not a matter of any of those things. When a person thinks, says what? It's not discipline. If you thought that the whole world was riding on what you did the next day, then you would get up early in the morning. If you think that you're not important and that tomorrow is going to suck and that you're going to have problems with your wife and you're going to have problems with your kids and nobody respects you and nobody cares about you and that you are barely getting by, you're going to get up. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, there's a way to just discipline yourself, 100%. But I'm saying, because where does the discipline come from?
It could be also that he's looking forward to something in the morning, like
100%. Where is that? Where is your father's discipline coming from? He was taught that you get up early to make money. So what's his purpose in life? That's his purpose, and he's getting up to do that. Yes.
You nap during the day.
What's that?
You nap during the day.
Well, sure.
But then that defeats the purpose of getting up early, no?
Again, we're just getting to the crux of it. What is the reason that a person has trouble getting up early? The main reason why a person has trouble getting up early is because he spent all his night wasting his time watching videos and doing random things that don't bring him any type of actual fulfillment. And then he needs more sleep because he invested his energy in things that don't have actual fruit. So it sucked out all of his life force. Now he needs more time to sleep. And he's not looking forward to getting up the next day. Why? Because nothing is going to be as exciting as all of the fake videos that he watched on his phone the night before. Why would it be exciting to get up the next day and go to work?
The question is, in terms of Hashem being concealed, Hashem is always present and revealed.
No.
Maybe the truth is that there are certain times when Hashem is not as close.
No, Hashem's always equally close. Sometimes Hashem is revealing himself, sometimes he's hiding himself.
Right. So it's not that he's not close.
No, he's always close. Yeah, but sometimes he's revealing himself and sometimes he's hiding himself. Rabbi Nachman says, what should you do when he's hiding from you is the most intense? He says, go to sleep. And when he starts to reveal himself to you, now you have to get up.
When a person has too much dunya,
What's that?
say a person has tremendous suffering. Somebody's having chemo, radiation on top of
We're
that.
talking about normative case. Think about yourself. Are these questions about you? Think about yourself. Do you have trouble getting up early in the morning? Do you stay up late watching videos? When you do all of these things, what's the reason? It's a person has very strong defense mechanisms, and we think about everybody else. Think about yourself. The normative case. What about you? What about you? What about you? What about me? What's our problem? What's our issue? We don't want to look because then we're going to have to deal with it. We all have difficulties and trials and tribulations. Part of those trials and tribulations is we've invested in a fake life. The fake life is called the American dream. It's not real. It's not real. Anything that's man-made is not real. Anything that's man-made begins and ends. Any theory or any goal that was created by human beings has a time when it looks like it's the hottest thing in the world and that we all need it, and then it fades away. For people to think that the American dream is the dream and not realize that everybody had a dream. The Greeks had the Greek dream, and the Romans had the Roman dream, and the Persians had the Persian dream. We're not the first one to think of a dream. Everybody has a dream. You know what happens to all those dreams? You wake up. You wake up. So do you want to wait for everybody to wake up? Or do you want to wake up at Tikkun Chatzot? Or you want to wake up early? And you want to wake up. And when everybody else gets around to waking up, they'll also get up. You ever notice, even as a secular person, when I was growing up, I used to think about the fact that if you had like a camera and you could see into everybody's homes, that you see billions of people around the world, and you see everybody sitting and looking at a rectangle, like a black rectangle, a big black rectangle. And everyone's just sitting like this for hours around the world. And it's the only place where there's human life. And you think about what people did for so long, that they would go through mountains and rivers and oceans, and they would go on journeys, and they would do things with their friends, and they would.
The people themselves, or what they're
Saying just no. I'm saying in real life, what people used to do before there was TV. Shashlich, yeah. Coin still got it. Thank God. But in general, like, what did we do for all this time?
Yeah, we invest a lot in furniture and a lot in.
I'm saying I think about it and it's disturbing.
Yeah, you remember what Principal Sherman said about it?
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying it's very, very scary. Even as a secular person, I used to think about it. Now, as a person who has a little bit of da'at, to know that Hashem really does exist and spirituality is real, and your neshama is real, it becomes all the more scarier. That you have people all around the world literally sit and clamped in front of these screens. And what's happening? Those people who are creating these things are not watching these things. They're making them, and they're making money. You're giving them your resources, and they are sucking out all of your life force. You're staying up all night doing it. You wake up late the next day. You feel terrible at work the next day, right? We're literally all invested in a system of we are giving up all of our resources, both emotional and psychological, financial.
System of a down.
A system of a down. Mom, a system of a down. System of a down. And I'm not an anarchist, by the way. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't connect to these things. But if you really think about it for a second, it's scary.
Will I just come in numb mode and do nothing?
Yeah, of course. It's horrifying.
Listen to their lives.
100%. We've never had more, meaning we've never had more physically. We could actually do more now with what we have than what we could have done for thousands of years. For thousands of years, you had to every day, you needed to make bread all year so that you could eat at the end of the year. Every day, harvest, plant, plow. If you didn't work from beginning of day to the end of it, you didn't eat or you didn't sleep. So that was it. Now you can just go next door and get whatever you want from any country in the world, even kosher. So what should that be? That should be messianic. Should be that I have all of these things now. I don't have to worry about them now. It is enough. Because you're in exile. Because you're staying up all night. Because you're not getting up early in the morning for Chatzot and crying over the fact that you're all standing up and sleeping and watching TV shows all night and doing nothing. You should be mourning over this. This is the morning of the Beit HaMikdash. This is what the tzaddikim are crying over every night, looking at their fellow brothers who are suffering the worst suffering, and they have more than they ever have, ever, and by far, and it's not even close. A person who has bare means in our generation, in our community, you yourself, everyone listening to this, has more than kings had 1,000 years ago. Kings. And you're always thinking to yourself, why you don't have enough? You bugging. You have more than anybody ever had. You are asleep. You're sleeping. Stop running. Enjoy. Wouldn't it be so scary if Mashiach comes and he tells you, hey, by the way, just open up your eyes. Just open up your eyes. Open your eyes. Those things you're all looking for, you already have them. Why don't you see them? Because you're running after money. Sure, 100%. What happens? Rav Nachman says it elsewhere. What happens when a person's running after money? That's all you see. Because what's your desire for?
That's the worst conversations with people. All they talk about is money. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That wedding,
Yeah. Yeah.
all you gotta do is show your account that says you get someone on your lap. So quick. You don't even have to speak.
Yeah.
It speaks for you. Fitting in, right?
Yeah. So the Midrash says, Chazal teach that as long as there is desire for money in the world, there's anger in the world. What does anger mean? Hashem's anger mean? Judgment. What does judgment mean? Concealment. Concealment. When I was in Uman, there was a person there. He spoke to us, and he said, listen, I am telling you something. He said, I am nobody, and I can't say a lot about this, but he says that I am connected to a lot of the hidden tzaddikim. Somebody in Uman. This past trip. But he was the real deal, meaning he wasn't like people who like say I'm doing X, Y, and Z. He really is. And he said, what I'm telling you, I'm just gonna say a little bit because I can't speak more about it. And he said that I'm not anybody, I'm just telling you what they said, because I'm a nobody. There's a story of Rabbi Nachman called the Master of Prayer. He's bringing up this point, and he's telling you something. There's a story of Rabbi Nachman called the Master of Prayer. It's one of the last stories that he told over. It's one of the greatest stories that he told. It's a very epic story. He says that there's this person, and he's pulling out people from their homes, and he's causing them to go into the woods, into the forest, and talk to Hashem. And everybody around them doesn't know where this person went, and they themselves are entering into this place, and everybody's confused about where the whereabouts are. And at the same time, he's explaining that there's different societies, and all these different societies or communities, they each have a different goal. One person has a goal for women, a society has a goal for what?
Money.
Yeah, for power, for strength, and one as a community has a desire for money. In the Master of Prayer, it's taught that there is a person who comes, he is called the Master of War. And the Master of War specifically shows up in the community, in the society, which has the desire, which his goal as a society is that of money. And he begins to wreak havoc in that society and to cause its demise. So this person said that according to those who explain the Master of Prayer, the Master of War is the Baldever, is Satan, is the dinim, the judgments that are in the world. Where has he come? And what is this referring to? He says that Rabbi Nachman was speaking about the future right before Mashiach comes. What's going to happen right before the Geula? There's going to be a shattering of the power of imagination. That all of these goals that the different societies have are all going to be destroyed, because the only way for Mashiach to come is that these goals have to be shattered. Because as long as you want something that's not real, you can't want Geula. Not everything, all fantasy is going to be shattered before Mashiach comes.
Basically, like any thought that's not a thought getting closer to Hashem or anything to do with Hashem is going to be like
Goals of different societies. Some places have a goal of this. Some places have a goal of this. Rabbi Nachman says that there's a society that has a goal for money. According to this person, it's clear from all these hidden tzaddikim that place that Rabbi Nachman was speaking about was Western civilization. Us. Okay? What's going to happen? That there's going to become a master of war who's going to come, and he's going to shatter that goal. Why is he coming there? Because that's the greatest form of avodah zarah, Rabbi Nachman says. And in order for the revelation of Hashem to happen in the world, there has to be a destruction of avodah zarah. Okay? Why am I telling you that? Because this is what we're saying. That as long as your desire is for money, and your desire is not to get close to real good, then automatically Hashem's anger is there, meaning he is concealed, he's hidden from your life. Personally, collectively, as a society, and that has to change. And now we can understand why does Chazal say before Mashiach comes, it has to be that money is not worth anything. To break everybody's power of imagination. To break everybody's power of imagination. This person said to me that the hidden tzaddikim say COVID is the beginning of something. The shattering of everybody's power of imagination. And it's only the beginning. And where is it going to be the most intensely that the power of imagination is going to be destroyed? He said, you figure it out. I can't say anything more than that. And that was the end of the conversation. Okay? And you should know that Breslovers are not conspiracy theorists. They're not into...
they don't speak unless spoken to.
They don't speak unless spoken to. They're not interested in... Thank you. My grandmother, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. They're not these people who are predicting things about Mashiach. This is not the Breslov way. They believe like Chazal does, that the more that you speak about when Mashiach is going to come, the more you hold it off. At the same time, he was saying that there is a real thing, and it's unanimous amongst all the real tzaddikim, that there is something that's happening right now, and COVID is actually just the beginning of it. So the quicker that we can reorient ourselves to the fact that money and the desire for money as a goal in life is a fantasy, is not real, and the quicker that we could start to want what is actually good in life, and that is Hashem, the quicker you will get out of the exile, personally, collectively. And how do you do that? How do you show that I am breaking that fantasy? Go to sleep early, wake up at Chatzot. Wake up early when everybody else is sleeping, and sleep when everybody's up. Then you have completely rejected Western society's goals and values of what is good in life, what is important in life, what has led everybody to become a zombie, even though we have more financial and physical means than we ever have in history, and yet we are the most zombie-like of anybody in history. We shatter it. We break it. This is Avram Avinu taking the idols of his father and shattering them. Now, what's going to happen when people tell, oh, what are you doing? It's fanatical. Relax, take it easy. There's nothing more fanatical than spending all day and night running after money, than spending hours watching made-up TV shows and watching YouTube videos about nothing, and then doing the same thing every day. That is the most fanatical thing that you could do. The most normal thing you can do is to be happy. The most normal thing you could do is to spend time with friends and family. The most normal thing you could do is make enough money to support yourself so that you can go live a good life. That's it.
I'm not
Disputing that.
not disputing.
But you want to say?
Let's say, for example, I need to put my kid in a shiur. I have to pay rent. I need a car. I have this bill, that bill, but you're just not making ends meet. Believe it or not.
Very good. So
Because it happens to be that
yeshiva costs a lot of money.
No, but if the value of money goes down, that means the economy is much harder to live in.
Right.
So what then? What does a person do then?
So Benny's asking a question. He's saying, but Lamais, at the end of the day, if you live in a society where the only way to pay for your kids' schooling and to have certain things that are necessities is by making a certain amount of money, so that, right, you want to send your kid to a good school because 100%. So I'll tell you the truth. Please don't kill me. The only thing that I think makes sense to do is to move to a different society.
Eventually, it will catch up to that society as well.
No.
No, I'm not understanding.
We live in a capitalistic society. The way that capitalistic society, one second. If you move to Eretz Yisrael, it costs barely anything to send your kids to school. Doesn't matter what yeshiva you go to. The place where the cost of yeshiva is college tuition is only in America.
Okay, that's just school.
Okay, so what else do you need?
What about home? What about cars?
What kind of car, what kind of home do you need?
I'm not talking about getting a Maybach. I'm talking about a regular Nissan. It doesn't matter. A Honda, a 2007 car.
You can do it there. You can do it there. Are you going to live in a mansion that you guys are looking forward to over here? Because you're speaking to Bukharians. Wait 1 second. You're speaking to people who are used to. No. I'm talking about this community.
I'm not talking about this community.
Okay, so I'm explaining like this. When people's yearning is for money, and those are the people that you're speaking to, and they're able to make money easily in America, even though things cost more here for certain things, you go to Israel, and it's hard to make that much money. It's impossible to make that much money, and you end up having to live in a much smaller space with a much less lavish car and a much less lavish this, then you feel that you can't make it in life. But can you really not make it in life? Or you just are not accustomed to living like that? And if you look at the people that you're speaking to, you'll notice that they're not accustomed to living according to their means. And they're used to living a life that they live in a certain home with a certain car and a certain this. That's the answer. There's no room for anything.
They say it's very hard to make a living. It's very hard to live in an environment. First of all, where they're surrounded by Muslims.
Yeah. It's fine.
That they're surrounded by Muslims.
Yeah.
That the Parnassa situation is not pushing. That COVID over there is probably harder than it is here. Everyone's mandatory quarantine. And the whole just, you get a ticket if you're not wearing a mask. Things are a little different than Eretz Yisrael than it is here.
Rabbi Nachman says that anybody who tells you not to go live in the land of Israel for 1 second, and brings up to you negative points about the land in any way, is the spies. Anybody who tells you not to live in the land of Israel or dissuades you from living in the land of Israel for any reason whatsoever is a bechina of the Meraglim.
So is it okay if I move there and my permission comes from here?
It's great. Go ahead. Enjoy. I know for a fact that my wife's family, which is not running after money and has the same struggles as anybody that lives in Israel, is very, very happy and able to live however they're living over there with much more happiness than I am over here, with much less than we have over here. Why is it that they're able to do that? Because they're not running after money. Because they're not running after
money.
again.
Not running after money.
So you think.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you think. But if you feel that you need to live in a certain home, in a certain community, with a certain place, so that your family is going to be happy, so somebody's running after money. Because the end of the day, if you need to go work there and you work a little bit harder and you have a little bit less, but it doesn't cost as much for your kids to go to school, it doesn't cost as much for medicine, it doesn't cost much for any of these things, and you don't live in as big of a space, but you have a car, you have what you need, you're able to live, and you're very, very, very happy because your goals are spiritual, then you're fine. But if your goals are that you have to be able to live a certain way, or your family thinks you need to live a certain way to be happy, so no, you're not going to be happy there. You're going to be very unhappy there. Everything depends on what is your, yeah.
You, not you personally. So let's say he lives in an 1,100 square foot apartment now. It's small, tight, it's too to move to Eretz Yisrael and to now live for the same amount that he's over here in an 800 square foot apartment. Why should any person go from, and this isn't even luxury or lavish lifestyle. This is what I can have right now.
I understand.
So, producing more, eventually more kids.
Yes.
I can't live with 9 people in a 750 square foot.
Okay, so first of all, for you to get from 2 kids to 9 kids is going to take at least 7 years.
But you know what
No,
I'm
but I'm
saying.
explaining something to you.
What I'm saying.
The way of the power of imagination, the way that it works is it gets you to think, but what about when I get to that place as if it's next year? It's not next year. You have 7 years until then. You're going to be 30 years old then.
Okay, let's say the scenario of I have 3 kids right now.
Okay, you have 3 kids now. So part of living in Eretz Yisrael has to do with I don't control my life, Hashem controls my life. Everybody resists, again, everyone resists that reality, even though that's a fact is everywhere. However, in America, you can fool yourself into thinking that you can control your life. In Israel, you can't do that. No, because Hashem won't let you, because Hashgacha Pratit is there. So if you don't have a Muna, you can't live in the land of Israel. You're going to get chewed up and spit out. Whatever it is, if you think that you're in control of your life and happiness comes when things go the way you want it to, so for sure you're not going to be happy then. So you have to be honest with yourself. But all I'm saying to you is that everything has to do with what is your desire in life. If I have to go live in a small space, and that small space is coming with the fact that I am not running after money, and that my kids are able to go to school, and I can have as many as them, Bezrat Hashem, as Hashem gives me, and I'm able to afford for all of them, and I'm able to pay for healthcare because it's not as expensive. So what is the way the power of imagination works? It tells you you're going to make a lot less money over there. Yeah, but what's the cost of things over there? How much does it cost to send your kids to school? 10 times less. What's important to you in life?
Have schools like over here. It's like you have schools that can really change the kid. They can deal with him. They can make him into.
I've seen many people in this society. I have not seen any well-adjusted people. I don't know any of them. Yeah, I'm sorry, but those kids that went to those schools that you're talking about, where those kids became adults, right? They live here. So what happened to them? They figured it out. Do you know them? Do you know these people? Did you ever meet those people that they figured it out? I never met them.
I'm not talking about them figuring it out. I'm talking about kids with a yeshiva education here.
They don't have yeshivas in Israel?
I don't know if they have it as chashuv as they have it here.
Yeah, that's what they tell you.
For kids, not for adults.
That's what they tell you. If you speak to anybody from here, they're not going to tell you it's a good idea to live there, because if they thought it was a good idea to live there, they wouldn't live here, right?
I understand why they're here. They have a community. They have people. People pay them money to stay here. I understand all that. I'm just saying that the yeshiva here, the yeshivas here, it's not just one. It's like thousands that are good schools.
It's great. So you live in a good school and you're running after money in order to pay for those schools. What's going to happen to those kids? They're growing up in a society that everybody's running after money and you see everything everywhere. What happens when you live in Israel? Everything's closed on
You don't necessarily
Shabbat.
have to run after money. The person's not running after money to put their child in the best yeshiva. They're investing in their children.
Okay. I just came here for a school program. The kids here that were learning Torah and they were learning at a very high level. They had sweatshirts with dollar bills on them. Why do they have sweatshirts with dollar bills on
I
them?
don't know.
Think about it.
It's
No,
it's the family.
No,
It's the family.
again, that is the society that we live in. This is American society. It is the chase for material accumulation. That is Western society. That's what it is. If you live here, you're in that society, whether or not you're doing that or not. And chances are you have to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to keep up with the Joneses. What are you going to do here? If everybody else is hustling after money and you're not, what are you going to be? You're just going to be broke and living here and feeling miserable about yourself. Okay. Everybody have a great day.